Hi, just thought I'd put something together to give you some guidance regarding the portfolio. It's probably a time when you need to start thinking about what you're going to do and which areas of the module you're going to focus on. So hopefully this will be of help to you. I'll be putting hard copies of this on Blackboard as well. Okay, coursework portfolio. What does it consist of then? Well, in total it's 2,000 words, and for what it's worth, I have a 10% rule, so I don't mind if you go 10% over that, but no more. 2,000 words, and that consists of 4 500-word critiques. And the critiques are linked to research papers, which are also linked to the seminar headings. So if you imagine that we have 6 different sport and exercise topics over the course of the module, you've got to choose 4 of those areas, find a research paper that relates directly to one of those 4 areas, and then build a 500-word critique around each of those 4 papers. So the areas that we've covered are adolescence, or that we will be covering, are adolescence and sport, behaviour and cognition, athletic identity, coach-athlete relationships, injury, and optimal performance. So you choose 4 of those, and you build up a 500-word critique around each one. What does that 500 words consist of? On the written guidance, which I'll put on Blackboard, I've sort of broken that down. And I've put some suggested word allocation to each of the sections. So, what you would have to include is a brief précis of the research paper in question. So what would that include, a brief précis? Just what the focus of the paper was, how they went about their research, and what the findings were. Okay, so that's just a brief précis. That might only take you 100 words or so. Then I'd like you to do some critical analysis of the paper. What this might entail is saying, well, this is what this paper found, and choosing 2 or 3 other different pieces of research just to give you some sort of sense of context. Is this finding unusual? Has it been replicated in other areas? Is it in marked contrast to some of the other papers? So it's not a huge piece of work, it's just setting the scene, if you like, or giving some context to the paper that you've chosen. Could be 200 words or so. And then lastly, a brief discussion of the practical implications from the research findings. Now, you know me, I have this so what meter kind of thing, that there has to be, for something to be of merit and worth in this particular area, there has to be some practical implication. So your task, if you like, on each of these papers is, what are the practical implications? How does this piece of research, how might this piece of research impact on the practice of, athletes in a sports or exercise psychology context? Always remember that it's a psychology module. Okay, so those are the kinds of things that I would expect you to include in the 500-word critique. A couple of other things. Because your module is new certainly in terms of the structure, one of the things I'd like you to do is to make links to the mainstream part of the module, so the big lectures that you go into. So within each of your critiques, make just one link between the research paper you've chosen, which will be a sport and exercise psychology paper, and the material that you're covering in the main body of the lecture. Other references that you make can be taken from sport and exercise psychology literature. So for example, let's say you chose to focus on adolescence and sport as one of the areas that you're going to use in your portfolio. 500 words, adolescence and sport. So first things you might do is say, okay, well, let's find an article first. So you go onto Science Direct or Sports Discuss, or you go to the library. You look through material, adolescence and sport, what's out there. You filter through some articles, you think, yeah, this one looks, I really like this, I'm interested in this. It's not, you know, it looks like it's got some really practical implications, so you think that's the one. So you might want to think about then, okay, well, adolescence and sport, what are the, you know, there's quite a lot of references in the sports psychology context. What is there in terms of mainstream psychology? Well, it doesn't take too great a leap of the imagination to realise that adolescence is a stage of development, so it might suggest developmental psychology might have some mainstream links, and then within that you've got theories of development. So you might have Jean Piaget, who talked about the four major stages for him: sensory motor, pre-operational, concrete operational, and formal operational. And the stage corresponding to adolescence would be the formal operational stage. Or you might think, well, Erik Erikson, he had the psychosocial crises kind of model, a whole life model, but the stage that corresponds to adolescence would be identity versus role confusion. You might see it expressed in different ways, but essentially that kind of conflict, the search for identity. So from that perspective, it's very clear how you can make links to mainstream psychology, the material that you're probably going to be covering within the main body of the lecture, and then that allows you then to bring in one or two articles directly from the sports psychology literature, sport and exercise psychology literature. So hopefully we're bridging, this portfolio is excuse me, is bridging that gap between mainstream psychology. You're making links between that, and also you're considering mainstream research within the sport and exercise psychology framework. So I don't think it's too onerous a task. In fact, in many ways, the challenge will be condensing the material to fit into that 500, 525, 30 word bite-sized pieces, if you like. So I hope that this has been helpful. We can certainly address questions in the remaining sessions that we have. Thank you.